Okay, so as I was mentioning, originally we were supposed to meet at Nordea. I still hope that someday it will happen. And I have prepared some presentation about how we are, and when I'm saying we, I mean people in ChangeLab are using visual thinking to boost innovation and to solve complex challenges that our colleagues are facing. And I can already now tell you, based on what we have heard so far, that I was butchering my handwriting, so sorry for that. Now I can see that I have some space for improvement here, that's for sure. But yeah, and moving forward, unfortunately, I don't have such a cool tools as Heather and Yuri, so I have prepared presentation, but I tried to make it interactive. So a short agenda for today. I will start from introducing myself. Then I will give you some very few and basic facts about Nordea so that you understand the complexity we are operating in. Super short information about what the ChangeLab is about as well. Then I will give you some examples of how I am using visual thinking to boost that innovation. Then we'll have maybe we'll have some time also for questions. If not, I know that at least one colleague from ChangeLab is online here today as well, and hopefully my colleague Rodika can also maybe answer some of the questions on chat if there are some. And we will wrap up with the exercise that I have prepared for today. So moving on. Some of you might know me from some of the meetups already. I will go very quickly through that. Obviously, I am a visual thinker and I love to solve problems creatively. I love to spread enthusiasm all around me, and I love to learn. And everything I do with having people in the center of my mind. Professionally, I have some experience with the customer service and individual customer advisory. Obviously, I was working with a lot of continuous improvement and operational excellence. And in 2018, I joined the ChangeLab, where I'm actually happy to use all those qualities of mine on a daily basis. So that's what I will share with you today. Very few facts about Nordea so that you understand this complexity I am operating with together with my colleagues. Nordea is among the largest universal banks in Europe in terms of total market capitalization. And you can see some facts here. We have around 10 million customers, and we have almost 30,000 full-time employees. And our roots go back to 1820. So it is quite a long history. Today we are one Nordea, but in the past it was more banks. And Nordea is a result of merger of over 300 different banks. That means that actually we have a huge complexity, a lot of systems that we need to deal with, and legacy systems. Also we are located in all Nordic countries, in Poland and in Estonia. So you can imagine how complex environment is that. Hence, our colleagues are sometimes facing some challenges. My team, ChangeLab, is there to support Nordea. And as mentioned, I will give you just a highlight. So if you are curious to hear more about the concept and how do we work in ChangeLab, just please reach out to me in LinkedIn or in other serving forms, and then I will give you some more details. But what you can see right now on the slide in the center, this is the value proposition of my team. So in ChangeLab is a trusted and creative partner that enables Nordea vision by bringing relevant people together. And then for you to understand a little bit better, how do we deliver on that promise? I will walk you through an example. So let's imagine for a second that you are working in Nordea and you are responsible for a certain area there. And you are facing a challenge and you are not really sure how to approach it and how to solve it. And you are calling the ChangeLab. Then we will start with the listen and sense phase. And can someone just let me know, can you still see my screen? Because I don't see this border I'm not sure. Can you still see the slides?
Yes, we can see that.
Please.
Perfect. So once you reach out to the team, and once you are on call or on a coffee together with me, then we will start to discuss about what is your challenge about, what it is that you're struggling with, and where you want to be in the future. So where you are today, where you want to be in the future. Once we have that understanding in place, then we will start to brainstorm on what people we need to involve in order to solve your challenge. So it might be people with different capabilities. There might be people who know how to, I don't know, deal with risk and compliance, or maybe how to do some coding. It really, really depends from what is your challenge about. Once we have identified those people and we had discussions with them to fully onboard them, and that is in place, we are moving on to the co-creation space. And that is my favorite part of ChangeLab. And the co-creation phase is a phase that is time-bounded. It's 5 weeks, where the first week is a super creative week when we are using a lot of different tools and methodologies to basically really, be innovative and think like there is no box, to come up with the best possible solutions towards the problems or the opportunities that we are exploring. And after that 1 week, then we have 4 weeks of either 4 sprints or 2 sprints, 2 weeks each, where we are executing on whatever we came up with in week number 1. I think what is maybe a nice highlight here is that in ChangeLab, we don't believe in steer groups and old-fashioned project management and comprehensive reporting. We do only essential here and only things that, in our perception, brings value towards Nordea customers. And today, I will actually show you some examples from that co-creation space in more details. Besides that, in our ChangeLab model, we have 2 more phases, role model and ripple effect. Role model, so again, back to the example. So imagine we actually are after those 5 weeks of co-creation, and now you are happy because we've managed to solve the challenge you are facing. And on that process, you have learned maybe some new techniques or tools. And maybe, for example, now you are also a visual thinker and you are using much more visuals while you're communicating, and you are role modeling it back in your home zone and in your team. If you're doing that and you are really good at it, we also have a ripple effect, because it might be that you will also inspire some of your colleagues and people that are around you to do the same. So these are 2 more phases that we also have. And obviously, whatever we are doing should lead us to happy customers, of course. So that is ChangeLab in a nutshell. And now we will move on to some more concrete examples of how do I use the visual thinking to boost the innovation and help my colleagues to solve the challenges they are facing. And for me, when I am thinking about an innovation, there are some elements that we need to keep in mind. For me, first of all, I need to make sure that the room we are in with all the people, it's a trusted room, and that people feel actually free to share their ideas. Because, sometimes it might be that idea might even kind of feel crazy. And sometimes if you are not trusting others, you might be a little bit afraid of sharing what you have in your mind. So that's the reason why I have designed some templates, visual templates, that we are using in labs to basically get to know each other a bit better. So as you can see here on the top, this is actually one of the signature practices we have in Nordea. It is about checking in. So whenever we are starting, we are always asking those questions. So what am I feeling today? Is there anything preventing me from being fully present here? And then the third question can differ. Here, the facilitator can decide what would be the question about. And here you have some example of basically how you can use visual thinking to boost a little bit more creativity. On the example that I'm pointing at right now, we have questions from all the things in the world. What are you today? And then, for example, here someone drew rainbow, and then here we have some small detective. So that is a really nice warm-up exercise, and also it is putting people in a bit maybe, you know, different context than usually. Here we have some animals in the room as well, yes? And then the second exercise I was mentioning to kind of get to know each other a bit better. Here you see wall of heroes. So obviously we have a theme here. And here we had a template when people were describing themselves. So what are their superhero role models, or what are your superpowers, and so on and so on. So basically, once every person in the room is doing that exercise, we might find that, for example, I don't know, we like the same superhero, or maybe we have some similar superpowers. So we can also find some things that are connecting you. And here are similar example. This is without a theme. Here we have just, you know, I have actually created a template when you have this kind of bold person, and then everyone could make those persons look more like themselves. And then we had some written assignment about what are their skills, what they like in their spare time, and so on. So basically, by creating that base at the beginning, we can. I'm hoping that I can assure a little bit more trusting environment. And then once we have that done, there are of course plenty of other examples of how you can use visual thinking to boost that creativity. I will talk a bit more on those three examples because for me these are quite important elements to touch upon. First of all, preparation. So if we are there to solve a challenge or really explore the opportunity, this whole discovery event needs to be well designed. So you need to have a proper plan with a lot of exercises that you will go through in order to achieve your goals. And I truly like to track them visually, so that is what you can see on the slide here. Here, for example, I was using doors to create a Kanban board with things that we need to do, things we are doing, and things that are done. It gives also people more safety because they know what is still in front of them. And it is also a bit rewarding because you can actually see how much we already accomplished while we're moving those post-its. So planning is a very important part as well. Then another thing that often when people are working in project or different change initiatives, I need to pay attention is thinking about the risks and potential roadblockers for us. And I have found a way how can you do that exercise maybe with a little bit of fun, because usually when I'm thinking about, you know, risk identification, for some reason it kind of feels boring for me. And here we have some example of how can you approach that in a more creative and fun way. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this stand-up comedian, or that's not the stand-up, but comedian Jeff Dunham. And he is having this puppet that is called Walter, and this is this very like old grumpy man that is always, you know, not really happy and challenging everything, and he kind of thinks that he knows everything the best, and he is like, oh, if you only have asked me, I would tell you how to do it in the best possible way. So basically, I'm sharing a link to one of the YouTube videos when people can watch that stand-up and first of all have some fun, and then second of all, we are then using that persona to actually capture the risks. So then I am asking people to imagine that they are Walter and capture some of the risks. So play a role here a bit, but then whilst you are Walter, to capture the things like what you need to pay attention to. So this is a little bit different approach to how can you actually capture these. And then last element that I would like to mention is the feedback and retrospective. So obviously, we want to continuously improve. And I think it's important to to pay attention to that. And you can use, again, different techniques here, how to do it in the best possible way. It can be something like here you have something very simple. You have a scale from 1 to 10, your overall impression, when 1 is actually sad and then 10 is super happy. And then maybe some simple questions like what worked well, what could be even better next time, and so on. So, so these are some elements I wanted to highlight. And then obviously on the screen, you see much more examples, but we don't have time for that today, and we still have exercise, and that is something I would like to focus on. Again, I will emphasize that if you want to hear more, just reach out to me. And sorry for my terrible handwriting here. I can see some space for improvement here, that's for sure. Yeah, so that is a very short presentation about Nordea ChangeLab and how I'm using some visual techniques to boost creativity while we are working with participants in ChangeLab. Do we have any questions so far?
I just have a very quick question. I have a lot of questions actually about this, but I'll reach out to you on LinkedIn. Specifically on the visual and design thinking part. Do people who work with you, or do you actually get people from other teams to work with you in the Change Lab and to implement these, or do you actually work with these tools on a regular basis yourselves? I'm just thinking of I remember Susanna had said way back in some of our first meetups that some of the teams around in the company considered them a little bit crazy to work with drawings and posters on Post-its and stuff like that. So I'm just curious how that works for you guys in Nordea.
Okay, for some reason I can really connect with that comment of Susanna. But yeah, so the setup looks like this. We have different roles and responsibilities in ChangeLab, and usually from ChangeLab there are 2 people that are kind of hosting the space and facilitating and designing everything. But then those subject matter experts, so the people that are actually, you know, having a knowledge about the problem and having a skill to solve it, these are people usually across different teams and departments within Nordea. And then some of them might have some experience with working with, for example, with design, Google Sprint or design thinking and service design, and some of them might be like, whoops, what is that? Like, I have no clue what it is. So it differs.
Yeah, okay, cool. And I'll reach out to you on LinkedIn for more details on that, but it's super interesting, so thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Any other questions? And since I'm sharing my screen, I have no clue what is happening on chat.
There is a question, what is the name of the comedian? Will you chat it?
Oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that for sure. Once I will start sharing my screen, I will do that.